and her. So, welcoming to the Chatterbox. We're going to open up the Chatterbox and chat with Jennifer Domenico. She is the author of Turn Towards the Sun, and she has a new book, the last installment in this trilogy. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Hi, Cricket. Thank you.
Oh, yes, no problem.
Hey, Jennifer, Biker Mike here. How are you?
Hello, Biker Mike. I'm doing really well. Thank you.
Good.
Jennifer, tell me about the latest installment in Turn Towards the Sun. I read a little bit of it, and it's a quick read. It's light, it's punchy, and I wanted to read more, but I just didn't have time. So tell us about that last installment.
Okay, well, as you said, it is the last installment of the trilogy, and I think that for me it was kind of about wrapping up every piece of the story that happened in the first two books.
Mm-hmm.
There is obviously some tension and some maybe some sad things that happen, but that's kind of normal life. Even in the book world, there needs to be a little bit of heartbreak and trouble along the way.
Right.
But I always promised my fans that they would get a happy ending, so...
Everyone loves a happy ending, right, Michael?
You have to have a happy ending.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
everyone guarantees a happy ending, but this one, it was really important to me to make sure that it did.
You know, I like the way that your stories flow. They're very conversational. It's almost as if the main character is sitting right there in front of you and telling the story. You know, you say things like, "Well, I say," or "I," or she says, and so it's almost very present, very up to the moment as the story's being told. It's not past.
Yeah, thank you. The stories, the first two books are told exclusively from Ava's point of view, so yes, she does use first person. Mm-hmm. And then the third book has a little bit of both, so it has some of mostly Ava's, but then it has some of Enzo's point of view as well.
Oh, okay.
And so the fans really seem to enjoy getting into Enzo's head a little bit and finding out what he thought about everything as it went on.
What made you decide to do that? What made you decide to have both characters telling the story in that third installment?
Well, when I got to book 3, there were some plot points that happened that Ava couldn't possibly know about because she wasn't present for them.
Okay.
And if I didn't tell it from Enzo's point of view, the reader would be really confused and lost, not understanding what was taking place.
Makes absolutely sense.
It was really important for readers to see things that Enzo was experiencing when Ava wasn't in the room.
Okay, well, that makes sense. So where do you find your inspiration for your stories? You've not only written the Turn Towards the Sun series, but you also have a few novellas as well.
Yes, the Turn Towards the Sun trilogy kind of came to me. Well, the first book came to me after last summer I went on a 3-week vacation to Italy. Mm-hmm. And while I was there, I was with my husband's family, and it was just really relaxing, and I had time to sort of come down off of the stress-filled life that, I sometimes had back here. And when I got home, I just wanted to kind of keep that going, and so I actually started reading books for fun. I'd been in school for a long time, so I was reading a lot of academic books, and that's not fun. But,
right, no, it isn't at all.
So I feel like when I got home that it sort of rekindled my own creativity, and I actually had a dream, and in the dream it was Enzo and Ava's first story.
Oh, wow.
So that's where I got inspired for that. It just kind of came to me, if you will.
Well, those are nice dreams. My dreams are usually zombies. I don't know why. I had a dream about a zombie attack in a mall. I mean, everyone survived, but those were usually my dreams.
I got to tell you, Cricket, that's just weird.
I know. I know. So I didn't wake up and write about it, but I think that's a great inspiration. So as a child, I'm very curious, were you an only child? Were you a middle child? Usually I find that... Go ahead.
I am not an only child, but I was born 7 years before my sibling was.
So you had a lot of time alone.
Exactly. I had tons of time alone. I was the only grandchild around as well. So
okay.
I was surrounded by adults, so I spent a lot of time in my own little
They didn't spoil you, did they?
World.
You know they did. Did they spoil you, Jennifer?
Oh, absolutely.
You know they did.
Absolutely.
I think that's why
I'm
Biker Mike and
I'm told that I didn't even walk because
They carried you everywhere?
Carried me around. Mm-hmm.
Oh, my gosh. That's why Biker Mike and I had such a hard time, because I'm a spoiled brat. I was an only child, and I was the first grandchild.
I came from a family of 5 kids.
Oh, my gosh, you did? Well, you're not spoiled at all. You're a giver, not a taker. I like that.
He had to fend for himself, probably.
Yeah, he probably did.
Yeah, at dinner time around our house, it was the quick and the hungry.
So, Jennifer, have you always wanted to be a writer?
You know, I have always wanted to be a writer. I was very much a writer as a child, you know, silly things, of course, and journaling through my adult years. And I had tried my hand at a few things here and there, but I guess I didn't know that I could actually make a profession of it until the industry sort of changed and self-publishing became something very attainable and also respectable to do. It had a stigma attached to it a few years back where, you know, if you self-published, it was sort of maybe your work isn't good enough for a proper publisher.
Right.
But these days, some very, very wonderful books have made it through self-publishing, and it's quite respectable, and it's very easy to do. And once I just decided to research it, and it took off, and now I'm building a little career with it. So I'm really excited about that.
Have you self-published?
I've often wondered just what motivates someone to be that creative. I can't do it. I just, you know, I sit down and try to write a letter, and I've got to suffer.
He gets a headache, gets a migraine. It is hard, though. I kind of feel like the creative writing process is almost like giving birth.
I would liken it to having a child in a sense. I don't have any of my own biological children, but I very much treat my books like babies, and I'm very protective of them out in the world. And I don't know that I'm necessarily motivated to be creative. I think it's sort of an innate thing. I think that you just kind of, you know, are. Mm-hmm. Some people are really good at math and science, and I'm not. And some people are good at different things. And
everyone has a purpose. They have a specialty.
Yeah, I think words are my thing.
Now, you mentioned that you self-published. Did you self-publish all of your books?
Yes.
Do you find that now that you've started self-publishing, are you being approached by other publishers, or have you been approached by other publishers?
Not yet, and I would say that I'm still pretty new to the game. But certainly many self-published authors have been approached and have had traditional publishing deals. I'm really happy being a self-published author. Certainly I would welcome a publisher reaching out to me, but I'm just as happy in doing my own thing as well.
Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to find out more about your transition from corporate America, because I know you held down a corporate job. So I want to find out about the transition from corporate America to becoming an author, because your books come out back-to-back pretty much. And then let's talk some more about your books and what they're all about so we can give our listeners more information, okay?
Sounds great.
All right, we'll be right back with the Chatterbox with Cricket. Well, if you're just tuning in, we are chatting with local author Jennifer Domenico. She is the author of the Turn Towards the Sun trilogy, and she has just written and released another book, the final installment of Turn Towards the Sun. It is Forever in Bloom. So tell us a little bit about the plot for Forever in Bloom, please, Jennifer.
Well, I do have to be a little careful with the plot because there's a bunch of spoilers in there. So.
Oh, okay. Well, don't give away the spoilers. Just give us a general overview if you can. No spoilers.
The general overview is there's a character in the book that was very present in the first book. She caused a lot of problems for Enzo and Eva because she had set her sights on Enzo and was a bit jealous, but it turns out that she's more than jealous. She's a bit delusional.
Mm-hmm.
And
I know who that is.
She comes back with a vengeance in book 3, and that's predominantly what they deal with through the course of that book is just dealing with someone who's quite unhealthy mentally and the things that she does.
Well, that's exciting. That's like drama you find on TV. Do you pull any of your inspiration from the people in your in reality that you actually know, or that you see stories on TV? Where do you pull your ideas from, or are any of your characters influenced by real life people?
Well, most of the characters in Turn Towards the Sun are influenced by some people that I might know and some places. It's set in Phoenix, so there's definitely places that Ava goes to that I go to myself, and I'm very familiar with these areas, of course. So I would say that there is some reflection of real life in it, although the details are very much created just by my crazy imagination.
Because your husband is Italian, right?
He is.
And I met him at Biker Mike. I met him at your favorite Italian restaurant.
Yes, at Andre's
really?
That's where I met him, too, at Andre's.
That's a good place to pick up guys, then.
It is. There's a lot of Italians that hang out there.
I better get up there again.
Well, right. It's a great place to hang out, that's for sure. It's just like a touch of Italy, isn't it?
Yeah. It really is, and the food is amazing, and it's very authentic. So, it was my favorite place before I met my husband there, and
it's probably still your favorite place now, right?
See, Cricket, there's hope yet.
Yes, there is. I'm sure I'll find a mate eventually. So,
he's hanging out there.
Are you still working a regular 9 to 5, or did you leave that altogether and you're just focusing on your writing? Because I noticed that your books come out like almost every 9 months, like you're just giving birth every 9 months.
Well, they come out sooner than that because I released 5 books last year.
Oh my gosh, you're busy.
So I write books pretty quickly, about between 4 and 6 months. I put out another book, and I do work full time still. And,
really?
Yeah. So I spend a lot of my free time writing, obviously, and I do plan to transition to full-time writing in about another a little less than 2 years is my goal.
Okay. What advice would you give for someone that has a story in their heart that they want to share, but there's a little trepidation there, and maybe they do work full-time and they're balancing a family or whatever it may be, and they just don't think they have enough time to write?
Well, I kind of think about that in terms of anything that you say that you don't have time to do. I don't have time to exercise. I don't have time to eat right. I don't have time to write. You have time to do anything that you really put your mind to. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like, first of all, if you have a story in you, the story tends to not leave you alone, and you kind of get to a point where you don't have a choice but to write it. Mm-hmm. That's a feeling that I know I share with many other of my author friends, that we feel compelled to write it. Mm-hmm. And then you start finding time. Maybe you write after your kids go to bed, or maybe you get up early before your kids get up, or before your work day starts. I get up 2 hours before I have to for work, so I can write in the morning.
So you don't really neglect any of the other people in your life to do this, so you wouldn't necessarily have to neglect your children or neglect your animals or neglect your work. You just carve the time.
Right. You just carve time differently. I would say that my husband definitely spends a little more time alone than he used to.
That's just temporary, though.
Yeah, but he understands, and he really supports my work. And then I don't maybe do as many social things as I used to, but I do make time for the important social things in my life, things that are important for people, birthdays and weddings and things like that. And I work really hard at my full-time job, but I work just as hard when I get home and do this. So I think that you can find the time. And then as far as maybe feeling trepidation, I think you should just write. And we always say write, even if it's junk, write. And you can always fix it and fine-tune it later, but get the words on the paper and you'll feel a sense of accomplishment.
This, Mike, pardon me for interrupting. Jennifer, do you ever carry a little tape recorder around with you and record thoughts?
Good question.
I don't record myself, but I do write. I do send emails to myself and write down little scratches of paper and shove them in my handbag for later. And
then you go back and try to figure out what you just scribbled down.
Exactly. Or sometimes I'll even tell somebody else, like, hey, I think this is really good. What do you think? And then they have it also, so they can remind me of it later.
Oh.
You know, my father was a prolific songwriter. He wrote quite a few songs of music. Some got published, some got recorded, and I've got them all in a drawer. And every once in a while I go through and I read them and I go, how come I can't be that creative? He was my dad.
It's not easy. And some people think it's easy, but it's not easy. Anything you set out in life, I think that you really have a passion for, it's not just going to fall in your lap. You really have to work for it. You really do.
It's not easy, and every single time I hit the publish button, I'm a nervous wreck every single time because, you know, it is very personal to you, the work that you put out there, and you just pray that people like it. And I've been fortunate that many people do, and I feel encouraged to keep writing, knowing that there's some people who really appreciate the work that I do.
Now, what are you working on now?
I'm working on a new book that I haven't released the title of yet, but it's about a professor who works at Harvard, and so it's set in the city of Boston and the surrounding areas, and his new assistant that he meets, obviously she applies for a job with him and he hires her, and it's just about the relationship that develops between the two of them.
So it's an office romance, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be a little more scandal or something involved that goes beyond that. Because your books carry an adult rating, right?
They do. They carry an adult rating.
Are they as extreme as 50 Shades of Grey, or is it a little more modest than that?
You know, people have compared it to 50 Shades of Grey. I personally have I've read 50 Shades of Grey, and I don't think I'm in that category.
Yeah, I didn't think so either, but maybe there were some pages I missed. I don't know.
I think it's a little, you know, I think the subject matter is certainly more kind of normal, if you will. 50 Shades of Grey was interesting because of, you know, it shows a controversial subject matter.
Right, it's a little more outrageous than what most of us are accustomed to. A little more outrageous. My books tend to be, you know, kind of the relationships that might happen, sort of things that we might be a little more accustomed to. But I do use descriptive language and words to describe some of the themes, so that's why it falls into an adult category. Now, where can we get your books? Where can we find these books?
My books are sold on Amazon.com as well as BarnesNoble.com, and they are sold through ebooks or paperback on either of those venues.
And so I can download it to my Kindle or Nook or what have you and take it to go.
Kindle and Nook.
And then do you have a website where we could find out more about you and keep up with upcoming releases and so forth?
Absolutely. My website address is JenniferDomenico.com. Pretty easy.
And you are a resident of the Valley. How long have you lived here?
I have lived here 9.5 years.
So where are you from originally?
I am from Boston originally.
Oh, okay. So
I like Boston. A brother of mine lived in Brighton for 20 years.
Oh, Brighton. I'm actually from Gloucester, which is a little tiny suburb on the North Shore of Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. Well, I am very glad that you came. I'm very glad that you started writing these books. These are amazing novels, and I cannot wait for the next installment. And I really appreciate you coming on the show with us to share just a little bit about your background and a little bit about what's coming from you in the weeks and months to come. So I'm very excited for you. Congratulations, dear.
Thank you for having me, Cricket.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in today to the Chatterbox with Cricket. Make sure you tune in to us next week, same time, 10 a.m., same channel, 1100 a.m., KFNX, and we will have more exciting, exhilarating stories from local guests and national guests as well. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thanks, Biker Mike. Thanks, Jennifer, for joining us today.
Thank
and everyone
you,
have a
Cricket.
great